Hello, Commanders, and welcome back to Elite Danger's return from Beagle Point. We're going to talk a little bit today about searching for success, but before we get into that, I would like to welcome all of you who are just joining the series right now. The purpose of our journey has been to, A, go out to Beagle Point, which was way out over there, but also to increase our exobiology rank to the status of Elite, as well as hopefully make enough money to purchase a fleet carrier to take back out into the black with all of our ships and have all kinds of fun with that. We are currently located right here on our way back to the bubble. Our current destination is Sagittarius A star, which we're returning to. So that's the plan for what we're doing and kind of where we are and the current status and all of that. So thanks for joining us, and be sure to click the like button and do all the algorithm happy stuff, subscribing and all of that to help the videos grow. So yeah, like I said, today's topic is going to be searching for success, and I think the first thing we have to keep in mind when we're talking about success is that we have to understand that success of any kind really is very rare. It's one of those things that no matter how you define success, being able to find it is just not something that everybody can do. Just with so many people on the planet, the number of people who are able to find any version of reasonable amount of success is just going to be very small, because there's only so much pie to go around, and you know, we all have to try to grab a piece of it. Now, for me, my idea of success is very different than what it was when I was younger, because, you know, as you change and gain more experience in life and you start to realize that, you know, certain things just aren't going to become available to you, you start to realize that you got to start changing your expectations. And, you know, that's one of the things that you really have to keep in mind when you're setting goalposts for yourself, is that you can't always get what you want. And the realistic view of the realistic thing that you have to keep in mind is just the fact that you can have any dream that you want, as long as you accept the idea that it's not going to be exactly the way you want it. You know, you can have a dream of having lots and lots of money, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the amount of money that you want. You're going to have to maybe compromise and say that I'm only going to have this much money, and you work and work and work and try to get towards that. But realistically, having a dream of the higher you're shooting for your dream, the more compromise you're going to have to take to, you know, have some kind of version of that. If you want to be a billionaire, well, there's only going to be so many of those, and at some point you're going to have to accept that, you know, you're probably not going to get up into that particular echelon of things unless you're willing to do, you know, a lot of things you probably don't want to do, whether it's just working your life away or maybe doing some shady things and, you know, participating in things that, you know, most people would look negatively towards you if they knew you did those things. You know, there's a price that you pay for everything in your life, including, you know, realizing your dreams. And many times those things are going to be, you know, activities and things like that that you really didn't want to participate in, but you had to because it was the only way to get to what it was you were trying to get to. Now, you know, the more realistic you are with your goals, the more likely you are to be happy with your life. And, you know, it's kind of like most people don't want to hear that, because you have a dream and you want to realize it, and you don't want to be told that you have to change what you want to find happiness in the world. You want to, you know, you have a thing that you want to attain, and damn it, you're going to get it. And I think a lot of people go through their life really unhappy because they set the goalpost higher than is possible to reach, especially given wherever it was that you started in your life. We got some geological stuff there. We're definitely not going to be going after geologics, but maybe we'll find some biologics here. The reality is that, you know, you're never going to realize any of your dreams if you're unwilling to make any kind of compromises on those dreams. You know, if you have a picture-perfect version of whatever it is that you're trying to get to, you're never going to achieve that, because nothing in life is perfect. People aren't perfect. We got a biological feature on this planet, and it's even on a high metal content world, but I really don't want to waste time going over there for just one, because almost certainly it's going to be a bacterium, which is not going to be worth the time it's going to take us to go do that. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next system. As unfortunate as it is, and as much as nobody really wants to hear it, realizing your dreams is always going to be some level of compromise. You're going to have to give up either a certain amount of your life to achieve whatever dream it is, or you're going to have to accept a lower version of whatever dream it is, or a different version of your dream. For some people's dreams, it's just not possible for you where you started to ever get to that point, and maybe your dream has to shift from you getting those things to maybe setting your children up in a place where maybe they could one day attain that dream. Like, let's say you want to be a billionaire. Well, maybe you don't have the ability to do that. Oh, come on. Aw, you suck. They didn't give me the... I didn't quite get the... Oh, there we go. Okay, somehow we just went slightly outside the cone. Maybe it's not going to be you that achieves that billionaire status, but maybe you build something that your children can build up into some kind of a billionaire thing, and, you know, your family at some point becomes billionaires. I know that doesn't necessarily help you specifically, but, you know, if you can think long-term that way, then maybe the dream that you have can be passed on to your children, and they can live that one day. But the reality is that as you go through your life, there's going to be an evolution or even a devolution of the goals that you have based off of where you started, how things go for you as you pursue whatever dreams it is that you have. And then, you know, those are going to change as you mature and realize that maybe what you wanted when you were younger isn't necessarily what you want now, or you start to realize that the goalpost that you set when you were younger was never really achievable in the first place, and you start to do the aforementioned compromising to, you know, try to get to something that's actually achievable, rather than continuing to, you know, emotionally destroy yourself seeking after something that was never going to be a thing in the first place. And it's kind of important to understand that no dream is going to be something that, I mean, I don't want to say no dream. Very rare is the dream that is able to be held onto in its initial form for the entirety of your life. At some point, you're going to have to step back and say, is this something that I can actually achieve in my lifetime, or do I need to start making some adjustments to my expectations to really get to a place where I might actually have a chance of attaining some form of this dream, rather than constantly being downtrodden and distraught and disappointed and upset and whatever other negative words you want to come up with, because the thing that you wanted isn't happening the way that you wanted it to happen. So, you know, the older that you get, the more, and the more knowledge and wisdom and all of those things that you acquire as you age, the more you start to understand and accept that. It's really hard when you're young to kind of put things into perspective, because you don't have the real world knowledge of having to deal with I'm trying to get to the idea that the world pushes back. Ooh, here we go. High metal content and 2 biological sources. We're definitely going to go check that out. The world's going to fight you. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, the world will push back. You know, there's going to be competition out there from people who want the same kinds of things that you want. And, you know, you're going to have to deal with that and try to fight back against that as much as you can, just as hard as they're trying to fight against you to get whatever it is that they're trying to get. Because, as I said, there's only so much to go around. That's just the way that it is. A lot of people think that there's this unlimited resource kind of thing, but we live in a world of finite resources, whether it's physical material objects or time, or, you know, even in the current economic state where money isn't necessarily as solid of a thing as it used to be, there still is only so much money to go around, no matter how much we try to print our way out of that. The reality is that, you know, some people are going to have more than others, and they're going to protect their interests against you, trying to shoulder in on what they have already, and, you know, you're going to have to fight for what you want. And once the older you get, the more you start to realize that it's harder and harder the further up the dream scale that you try to go to, you know, acquire enough of those resources, whatever they may be, to actually get anywhere close to your dreams, much less actually realizing them. So the older you get, almost always the more compromise you're willing to make, not just because you're older and wiser and you understand the world a little bit more, but you also start to realize that you have less and less time to accomplish whatever goals that you have, and you start pulling back on those to try to get to a place where they're achievable in the time that you believe that you have remaining. So it's one of those things where as you go through your life, you're going to have to A, reevaluate your goals in general, B, be willing to compromise on those goals as you start to realize that either they weren't achievable in the first place, or just things just aren't going as well as you hoped that they were going to go. And then C, understanding that you only have so much time left, and how much are you going to fixate on this one thing that you can't get versus these other things that maybe you could get. So that's something that I think every generation in human history has always had to deal with. But then we also have to understand that the world is just a very different place today than it ever has been in the entire history of humanity. And people like to say that there's nothing new under the sun, but the reality is that we are living in a world today where there's a fundamental change in the way that the human species is interacting with the world when it comes to things like technology and the processes that we've come up with, the governments and the nations, and just the way that the world works is so different today than it has been in the entirety of human history. And so far we've been able to more or less adjust to that, but at the same time, we're crossing into a threshold that's going to make things so different that the things we have to deal with in the future are going to be completely different than the things that any other human in history has ever had to deal with. We've adapted to mass media, we've adapted to internet, sort of. I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to things like social media, haven't really adapted that well to a lot of the things that the internet has brought to bear. But if it just stayed with that, I think we could probably eventually figure it out. But we have the idea of things like superpowers, even the United States and some of the other big countries in the history of the 20th century have irrevocably changed the world in a way that makes it so that we define our human history by what came before the global empire versus what came after the global empire of like the United States and things like that. So it's just even in the last 20 years, as I've been an adult and I'm starting to enter my middle age, the world is vastly different than it was when I was a kid or a young adult or anything. Like it's a massively different change from those times compared to what it is now. And figuring out how you're going to be successful in that landscape is just a whole different can of worms than what it was at the turn of maybe the 20th century, if even just that recently. So we always have to keep that in mind. Let's see what kind of we'll take a second and just kind of look at what we have going on here. I'm almost positive that this is going to be stratum tectonicus, but let's just stop and focus for a second here. Yep, that's definitely stratum tectonicus. We get first footfall. That's another 90 million credits in our bank account. That's going to be exciting. So if I could find a place there we go. If I could just find a place to land, we could hop out and scan this. So let's see, and let's see if we got first footfall, and then we can go scan our bacteria, or scan our stratum. Waiting for that thing to pop up. There we go, first footfall. We just cashed in a big chunk of money. So we just got to find 2 more of these, and then the bacteria on the planet, and then we can probably move on. Yeah, I think we need a few more jumps in, even if we don't find anything interesting to scan after this. So, the world being different today, I'm kind of leading towards the biggest change that I think a lot of us, especially in certain fields and business areas, are really afraid of, and that is artificial intelligence. And I know there's a lot of fear-mongering when it comes to that, and especially when you look at movies like Terminator and other movies that really talk about the apocalypse that could happen if we allow AI to become a thing. But even if you just disregard that, the fact that we are moving into a future where we're going to have artificial intelligence doing a lot of the things that, you know, the average person used to make money off of, that's making our future look really, really scary. Especially if you're not the kind of person who knows how to navigate into a completely new paradigm of the way that the world is going to work. The reality is that the vast majority of people in the world, if we're truly able to automate most of the things that we've traditionally had to do manually as human beings, most people are going to be out of work, and they're not going to have any opportunities at all for a future outside of, you know, something I don't even know. I don't even really, it's really hard to know what the future is going to hold, especially when you look at things like artificial intelligence. I know that me personally, the career field that I cultivated for a very large portion of my adult life is quickly being eradicated by artificial intelligence. And so, you know, what's going on here? Office related anything is just going to be something that you're not going to be able to find work in the relatively near future. All of the computer skills and stuff that I'm not talking about programming, but just being able to, you know, process information and do type and do office work and all these other things that used to be extremely valuable commodities for businesses is just something that's not going to be feasible for, you know, most people to do here in the not too distant future, because you're going to have this software that's going to be able to just do it for you much more efficiently and cheaply than any person could ever do, and it just doesn't make sense to hire people. And that's just one example of the many different ways in which we're moving towards a future where there's just not going to be as much opportunity as there used to be, especially if you're not the kind of person who's genuinely and intuitively creative enough to be able to figure out a way to navigate through all of that. So it's one of those things that makes me really unsure about the future. It makes it very difficult for someone right now to really, you know, make a long-term plan, pick a career that is going to last a lifetime, any of that stuff, because we're living in a time where things are changing so fast and changing in ways that we never expected, that it just makes it really hard to make plans for the future, because you don't know what the future is going to be. And, you know, unless you're one of those people who has an intuitive understanding of how things are moving forward, you're just going to really struggle to make decisions and be confident in those decisions, because you just don't know what changes are going to be. I mean, take the current take the way that artificial intelligence is working right now. We all assumed that the way that it was all going to work was that, you know, we were going to be continually lifting up the bottom and moving people out of manual labor jobs and into more, you know, blue collar or white collar, you know, not having to bust your butt jobs, because we were going to get robots to do it all. But the reality of the situation is that we kind of did the opposite, where, well, not the opposite, but we're basically cutting out the middle now, and, you know, the people who are having to bust their ass every day with lots of physical labor are still having to do that. And those of us who put time and effort into getting an education and developing skills that took us out of having to do that kind of work are being, you know, excised from the workforce and either being forced back down into the manual labor category, or, you know, being forced to try to figure out what the hell we're going to do to make a living of some kind. And that's just kind of scary for some of us. And there's just a lot of uncertainty about the future. So, like I said, like the title of this episode is going to be, of course, I'm on the other side of the planet from where we're trying to go. Oh, wait, hold on. There we go. About to say, I hope I'm not on the other side of the planet. The title of this episode is going to be like Searching for Success. And, you know, it's a really scary proposition right now, because none of us really knows how the future is going to be. We're just, you used to be able to count on certain things, and we've reached a point where even just the basic things that we used to be able to count on, you can't anymore. You know, having a job for 30 years is just not a thing anymore. You have to move around from company to company if you want to have any kind of progression in your life. Because that's just the way the economy has changed. That's just the way the work situation has changed. It's just it's the way culture has changed. You know, the 30 years and get a retirement thing is just not something that exists really that much anymore. I mean, I'm sure there are companies out there that do it, but realistically, that's just not something you're going to be able to count on. Give me the, I'm about to say, give me the supercharge before I pop out of the column there. And you know, that's not really something I ever wanted anyway. But the reality is that I'm one of those people who I want one thing, but my temperament requires another. I spent, what, 12 years of my life plus, another year of college in a highly regimented, academic situation. And then I spent another 11 years after that in a highly regimented military situation. And, you know, there's something to be said for being forced to ad-lib and figure out what you're going to do. And when you're in highly regimented, rigid situations like school or the military or whatever else is, you know, kind of a cocoon for you to be in, you're really going to struggle when you're not in those situations to figure out what the hell you're going to do. And I personally have always struggled since I left the military figuring out what I'm going to do with my life, because I haven't been forced to exercise that part of myself that forces me to adapt and figure out what I'm going to figure out a path forward to success. And I think that's, like, especially for me, it's extra scary because not only I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have that, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't necessarily have that entrepreneurial spirit. And because I don't have that, and because we're moving into a time where, people with that kind of instinct and spirit and ability to kind of seek out opportunity and figure out, well, hold on, what's going on here? How many bodies were in this system? High metal content worlds. Those people are going to be the ones that have the highest chance of actually, making it in whatever new world we're going to be in, say in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And, that's a scary thing to think about, because if you don't have that, you're going to have this kind of sense of dread that you're going to get left behind, and you're going to be one of those people who are really struggling. And if you've seen shows like The Expanse, where, they have a universal basic income and everybody has their basic necessities taken care of, but, you have no access to opportunity. Well, there's a really good chance that our future is going to look like that, because, you're going to have AI doing most of the heavy lifting, and there just isn't going to be anything for the vast majority of people to do. Because regardless of your intentions, we all have a limit in the ability of ourselves to do things. Whether it's because you're not smart enough to do certain things, or you're not motivated enough to do certain things, or you didn't develop the discipline that you needed to excel at whatever it is that you want to excel at, or whatever the reasons are. There's a reason why only a small percentage of the population actually makes it to a significant level of success, and it's because achieving any level of success requires a certain list of ingredients that the vast majority of people just don't get. And there's a reason why most of us grind at the bottom and some people rise to the top. Part of it's luck. I honestly believe that a big part of it is luck. You're in the right place at the right time when that opportunity comes knocking. But then the other part of it is just preparation meets planning, or preparation meets opportunity, or something like that. Only the people who are ready to meet an opportunity are going to be the people who are actually able to exploit it. And, the vast majority of us just are not prepared to do that. Whether it's because we just don't have the mental ability to do whatever it is, to take advantage of whatever it is, or we don't have the kind of spirit that allows us to recognize the opportunity when it comes along. I know that's my biggest problem. I'm unable to recognize opportunities when they're there. I think we should probably start thinking about landing. So let's find a planet to get down to. Eventually. All right, what are these? All right, so now we got those out of the way. Let's see that. So now, let's get these unlocked. Mostly just because I'm trying to see if we can find ourselves a landable body. Okay, let's see if we can find the other gas giant here. Okay.
System scan complete.
Then we're going to get the closest one so we can get landed. And get ourselves put on the ground. So yeah, I know that, like, for me, like I said, I just don't have the ability to recognize opportunities when... Wait, what did I do that for? I don't have the ability to recognize opportunities when they come along. I'm sure that I've had a number of opportunities that just kind of passed me by, but I just didn't understand them when I saw them, and by the time I realized what they were gone. And then other ones are just opportunities that I didn't want. And that further reduces your ability to find success, because if you're hyper-focused on one specific thing that you want to get and you're not able to, you know, branch out and maybe compromise a little bit, you're going to have that much harder of a time realizing success, because you're making it even harder on yourself than it already is with the world as it exists today. So, you know, it's hard to look at the future and see... Like, we can look at the future of the human race, and part of us wants to look at it and see positivity, but the reality is that with the way that things are shaping up, I can easily see a future where a lot of people are going to end up suffering, not necessarily because they're starving or they don't, or they, you know, or they're neglected or they don't have what they need, but part of what the human experience, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Part of what the human experience is, you know, progressing in your life. And if you're not able to find a way to do that, you're going to experience some really negative spiritual effects, or whatever word you want to... I really hate this mandatory loop of shame thing if you inch over the acceleration towards a body even a little bit. It really irritates me that you end up having to waste a bunch of time making a small mistake like that. That's really annoying. All right, so yeah, we're going to get down on the planet and close out this episode. I'm going to try to land near the Terminator here as much as I can so we can get a nice little sunset / sunrise / whatever it is that... oh, and as usual, I forget to turn that off when I need to turn it off. And then we'll go ahead and call it a day. So yeah, searching for success is just going to be one of those things that I think all of us are going to struggle with in the future, unless... you know, you're one of the lucky few who are able to figure out a way to exploit the way that things are happening. And most of us just aren't going to be able to do that. Some of you will be able to figure it out. Some of you have an intuitive understanding. Some of you will know somebody who can carry you along for the ride. But a lot of us are really just going to struggle for the foreseeable future, because, you know, there's going to be a transition period. Even if we do some kind of universal basic income thing, and you know, we get to a point where nobody really has to work anymore because robots are going to take over everything. Well, there's going to be a transition period where some people have to work and some people aren't going to be able to work, and it's going to be really unfair for a lot of people, because, you know, we can't go instantly from everybody's working to nobody's working. There's going to be a period of time where, you know, only some people are going to be able to work, and how are we going to deal with that in a fair way that makes it so that, you know, the people who aren't working aren't exploiting the people who are working? And, like, you know, you see what I mean? Like, there's no easy solution to the problem. It just kind of is what it is. And that's just, you know, it's just another element of the future that makes me really unsure about what's going to happen, what things are going to look like even in just 10 years from now, much less, you know, the next century. So, yeah, it's just, I have a lot, I don't want to say I have a lot of fear in my heart, but I have a lot of concern. There's a lot of concern going on for me, because it's impossible to know what things are going to look like. And I'm one of those people who, you know, I want success. I want to figure out how I'm going to make myself into something that makes me feel like I matter and like I accomplished something that matters to me. And it's getting harder and harder to see how that can ever be a thing, given the way things are going. I know that sounds very pessimistic, and maybe it is, but I don't know. It's just how I think about it. But anyways, we're going to get down here on the ground, hopefully, and call it a day. Hopefully, you guys had lots of fun. Be sure to click the like button if you did, so that the YouTube algorithm will know and send the video out to as many people as possible. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing now, so that when the next video comes out, it'll show up in your feed and you'll be able to watch it as soon as it becomes available. Channel members get early access to all of my content, so be sure to click the join button. Check out the list of options available there and decide if any of those are right for you. If you're not interested in a channel membership but would like to support the channel, you can always use YouTube's version of a tip with that thanks button. Direct contributions such as these are greatly appreciated and a critical component to helping to turn this channel into a success. So again, thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed the flight. Be sure to come back for the next one, and I'll see you then.